For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Hello, everybody. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble, and thanks for tuning in wherever the hell you're tuning in, right? There's so many different platforms and ways to hear audio nowadays. And this is where I'm going to sound old, but back in the day when I got started on, well, I guess I got started on internet radio, so I can't really say that I was back on the AM and FM dials, but I certainly got my start. I was one of the pioneers, one of the first people in internet radio. And now, thanks to podcasting, everybody can have a show. It really does put things into perspective, right? Not everybody had a platform before. Your choices were kind of limited, so you had to listen to somebody if you're going to listen to somebody. But anyway, there's a lot to talk about on the show today, and much of it is about air travel, because this is one of those things that if you can avoid it, you can avoid it, right? My dad, I don't think he actually has never been on an airplane before. My mom, years ago, when her sister was going through cancer treatments, my mom did, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is my mom did fly on an airplane probably about 50 years ago. So drastically, air travel has changed, obviously. Security at the airport, and then even just the flying experience, right? You used to be able to smoke on the plane. And remember there was that big phone in the seat in front of you. You could swipe your credit card and pay like $500 a minute to use a phone. But anyway, so there was a story in the news the other week about the reclining seat woman, right? You heard about this, where the guy was like pounding the back of her seat because he was just annoyed because he had a back row and it didn't recline. So there's that story. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. And then also, I had a really weird experience. Now, I'm not one of those people who goes on a rant and thrashes a company publicly on social media, right? Because, well, one, I'm in broadcasting, so I can do that on the radio. But I feel the need to tell you this because it didn't work out in my favor. Here's the deal. How would you feel if an airline makes you sit in somebody else's vomit for 15 minutes on an airplane? You've got to stay tuned for this story now, right? I mean, come on. That is exactly what happened to me. That is no exaggeration. I had a mortifying flight. You might recall a couple of weeks ago I talked on the show about how we were going to Fort Lauderdale, Florida to tape our travel programming. Well, it was a great end to the trip, okay? So the story about feeling the goop while flying swoop is coming up, and also the reclining seat debacle. So if you are one of the people who finds air travel maddening, you definitely want to stay tuned for the next, 27 minutes. We're back on the Scribble right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. You know, there is something that's just mood changing when you step onto an airplane. And don't get me wrong, I have flown first class, and it's like night and day. Let me tell you my first class story. I, again, because of our radio programs, get to travel. I don't book the tickets. Sometimes we don't, in this office, don't even book the tickets. A tourism board does it, a PR agency. Somebody books and pays for the flights. And there have been times when I have flown first class, and sometimes our staff gets the back of the plane. But I am a cheapskate at heart, right? I wrote a book about saving money and not spending on frivolous things like that, or even I guess ways to save money so that you can spend frivolously. I'm already tripping over my words and we're just starting off the show. And so the very first time that I flew first class was very much like the first night at an all-inclusive resort. And what I mean by that is you eat as much as you can because you can. You drink as much as you can because you can. And the novelty wears off after a while, right? And so, yeah, I was on, the first time it was like a 7 a.m. flight. Oh, I can have some wine or champagne and orange juice. Oh, yeah, keep them coming, keep them coming. And then by like 9:30, you're kind of like, whoa, I don't feel that great. And I've got a full day of work ahead of me. Yeah, maybe not the smartest thing. And then, of course, you can have the breakfast and the lunch, and you got the space, and you got the hot towel that you rub your face with. I don't exactly know why, but you just do it. And you really play the part. Now, the plane that I was on, first class, I think was 4 rows. And so I was in the the last row. And there was such an inconvenience. Now, again, I didn't pay for the seat, so it's not like I'm out of money because I didn't get a meal. But they always seem to run out of chicken, was the problem. Whenever they run out of the chicken. Sometimes I'm not even in the last row, and they've run out. So if I was paying for the seat or the flight, absolutely I would be putting up a stink. But I just have this huge inconvenience. And there was one time where I actually didn't even realize that I was flying first class, so I was not expecting to eat on the airplane. But knowing that I was entitled to a meal, knowing that damn it, I'm supposed to be served a meal on this, and you don't have the chicken, it was just frustrating. And you do get into this weird mindset of, we're the only ones on this plane right now, because there's that little thin curtain. There's nothing stopping anybody from just opening that curtain a little bit and walking up front. But when they were doing that, you're damn right you're giving them dirty looks like, what, you common folk coming up here. Get back in your little peon area there, back in the hepatitis section of the plane. Really, and again, I don't feel like I'm a celebrity, I don't feel like I'm a big shot, I don't feel like that. But when you're sitting in that seat on that plane, there is absolutely something that tells you to act like that. Maybe it's just me. And so I'd like to know, if you're not a regular first-class traveler, but you have flown first class before, send me an email and tell me if you've actually gotten to this mindset. Because it really does, and I have a friend who does fly that way now all the time, but yeah, you once you've had that taste of it, yeah, this is for me. I am doing this every time I fly. I don't know. To me, I don't understand, in the back of the plane, like in the common folk area, I don't understand why one seat to the left is $40 more than one seat to the right, or one row in front or one row in the back. I don't get that. I realize that like a window seat might be more desirable, or the leg room for the fire exit, or the emergency exit, but then the emergency exit doesn't recline or something like that. Okay, fine. But is it really worth the $40 or whatever it is, depending on the flight? Is it worth it? To me, it's not. We're all going to get there. We're all going to get off the plane basically at the same time. So the people who stand up as soon as the plane lands, I don't get that, because you're still going to be standing there for nothing for the next 5 minutes. Anyway, so the first class thing, you really do get this like holier than thou feeling. And you get it in that moment. I can't say that, the next time I'm booking a flight or whatever it is, that that's the way I'm going, that's the way I'm going. Sure, if somebody else is paying for it, of course I'll take it. But yeah, no, I would never pay, just because, think about it. So you get free drinks and a meal. Are those drinks and that meal worth $400 extra? Like, there's the price of comfort. I can't justify it. I don't, which is why, again, I wrote a best-selling book about being a cheapskate. So tell me your thoughts. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. So then you can imagine the frustration in the common folk area, which, by the way, let me set the record straight, is generally where I travel. But, the woman who had the reclined seat and then the guy was punching it the whole time, this story made the news maybe about a week and a half or so ago. I think it's done now, but in our 24/7 news cycle, we haven't had an episode of the podcast since the story broke. That's why I'm telling you now. And, the woman is trying to, fight whether it's the FBI because it's assault, or going after the airline, or what have you. Bottom line is, she was recording this passenger doing it. If you haven't seen it, it's, it's YouTube or whatever it is now. Then it leads to this discussion about who's right and who's wrong. Apparently the guy asked her to put the seat up while he was eating. Okay, fine. But I thought that that's kind of why the seats only recline so far anyway, is that it doesn't necessarily impact the person who's behind, right? Absolutely, I've been sitting there and the person reclines, and then I've got to adjust the TV set or, whatever it is, right? If it's like one of those swivel kind of things in the seat, like in the head, the back of the seat. Okay, fine, whatever. Or, there just hasn't been enough room. But my thought on it, right, because now the debate is, well, should she have respected his space, da-da-da-da. Here's the deal. If I'm reclining as much as the seat will let me recline, then that's kind of the bottom line, really, isn't it? Like, if I broke the seat to recline back another 6 inches, okay, fine. But I'm only allowing what the plane is allowing me to do. That's what this is built for. It barely reclines as it is, right? And again, depending on where you're sitting, it might recline like 2 inches. Is that really even enough anyway? What does that do? Okay, great. But yeah, so the debate about who's right and who's wrong, should she have respected that if he's crunched in or whatever, my thing is that I've paid for this seat. If it goes back all this way, then why wouldn't I do it? I mean, that's sort of it. If he's bitter, and again, there's just different stories on this one. If he's bitter because he's got a last row seat that doesn't recline because it's up against a wall, well, you can ask the flight attendants either to move you or look into that before you're boarding the plane. Maybe it was his first time flying. He doesn't know that, whatever. But if you need to recline, if it's that important to recline that few inches back, you're making it seem like this is a recliner. Like I'm going to be sprawled all the way back and, the recline isn't that much to begin with. So I don't know. Absolutely, I have felt the piss off when, the TV in the seat in front of me doesn't work. So it's like, okay. And I've thought about complaining or, demanding a refund or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, was it really that much of an inconvenience? In the grand scheme of things, my TV didn't work. But my flight, I'm paying for you to get me from point A to point B. If the meal sucked or you didn't have ginger ale for me or, whatever, maybe that's the same thing as that whole chicken debate. But again, if I'm paying for a first-class meal, absolutely, you should have a first-class meal for me. If you have 12 seats in first class, don't only bring 8 chicken dishes because, well, the 4 people are SOL at that point, right? I'll waffle on my argument on that one anyway. But when you're just paying the regular economy fare or economy, is that what it's called? I don't even know. The cheap seats, basically. The regular seats is what I call them. Deal with it. Or so the light above me didn't work. Darn. Perhaps it's an issue if you're on a flight that's 10, 12, 14 hours. Okay, fine, right? If your TV doesn't work and you can't watch movies or anything like that, I might understand that. If your flight's an hour, 2 hours, whatever, I mean, find something to do. I mean, But I guess you can go and say, well, he can't sleep because he can't recline. Is that really going to make a difference? That little 2-inch recline is going to be the difference between staying awake the whole time and nodding off and falling asleep? I don't know. Again, send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. I don't like that I've spent more time on this show talking about somebody else's story than my own. Me having to sit in somebody's puke for 15 minutes is up next on The Scribble.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. So we go from flying first class to flying swoop airlines. Now, everybody's heard about these discount airlines that are popping up, right? You save on the little, like, are they called frills, right? I don't want this. Okay, so I save a bit of money there, right? I don't want entertainment. I want TV in the seat in front of me. Okay, I'll save a bit of money. I don't want the half can of Coke. Okay, that'll save me a bit of money, right? I don't want seatbelts or oxygen. All right, that'll save a bit of money. But these no-frills airlines, I guess they're called, are sort of appealing to people. And there's one in Canada now called Swoop. It's the little brother of WestJet. WestJet is a big national airline. And I guess Swoop is, I call it the discount traveler's dream, really. So I flew from Winnipeg in Canada to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Direct flight, not many of those from that city in Canada. And it's appealing because it's a 4-hour flight. There's no layover. There's no stopping in 2-3 cities, whatever it is, before I get there. I fly out in the morning. I get to Florida in the afternoon. So it sounds great. There was a deal, probably about 2 months or so ago, and it was $80-some. Let's say it's 85. It was 80-something, but let's go with 85. $85 each way to fly from Canada all the way down to Florida and then back. So you're looking at about $150, $100 and some dollars. All inclusive, like a round trip, all inclusive for the flights anyway, not the hotel. That's another story. It's not too good to be true, right? People, when they hear that it's so cheap, they must think that it's this old rickety plane or whatever it is. No, that's not the case. Not at least in the WestJet / Swoop game. And when I say game, you'll hear why in a second. So you get onto the plane. And again, this is just from my one experience. I can't say that every plane or every flight is like this. There was no carpet down the main aisle, like the main pathway of the plane. It almost looked like they were redoing the floor, is what it felt like. It was warm. The little air or the fan above me didn't work, and again, it could have just been my seat. I don't know. And we were late leaving. It almost kind of seemed like when a Swoop plane lands, it almost kind of seems like they just get put to whatever gates open at the airport. So I don't think that they've got priority. I think it seems like the bigger airlines do. Now again, these are all observations that I'm making, but on the way home is when things were really bad. So again, you've got a ton of families who are using Swoop because, again, if you're paying $80-some per person, well, you absolutely could take a family of 4 or 5, whatever it is. For some reason, on the flight down to Florida, and same thing on the way back, they were very, very, very young families. I wouldn't say that the kids were even 4 or 5 or 6 years old. We're talking people traveling with babies. And so, fine, I mean, I've got headphones, right? I can tune out the noise, not a problem. On the way back, though, our flight was late coming back. We had many notifications throughout the day, which is helpful, but also kind of annoying. Like every 30 minutes, your flight's later. Well, I can appreciate, just tell me that it's late and what time I need to be there. When you keep pushing it back later and later, again, I appreciate that so that I don't spend 3 hours sitting at the airport. Fortunately for us, we were actually on a yacht cruise in the morning, so the flight being late kind of worked out in our favor because we were able to say to the captain, let's go for one more loop on the water. And quite honestly, if the plane were to leave at the late time that they told us, we would have missed it because we were later than that. So, that's on me. I very well could have missed the flight, and it would have been my fault, and I would have accepted that. Oh no, another day in Florida. Darn, I'm the boss. I'm not going to lose my job. I'm okay. So we get to the airport. We check in. We run, my colleague Suzanne and I. We go through security, huffing and puffing like we're going to miss the plane. We find out it's even later. We had time to go grab food. She grabbed coffee. And then there was just mass confusion because there were 2 planes going to be departing at almost the same time. 2 Swoop planes at the same time. And it was going to Hamilton, Ontario, and then Winnipeg, Manitoba, where we were going. And there was just this confusion because people didn't know, am I in line for which flight am I in line for? They're both the same place. So of course you just have the customers grumbling to each other. Now, fast forward to getting onto the plane. I have the window seat as well. We didn't get to pick our seats. You can, again, for $21 or $41 if you want this seat, that seat. You're sort of just given a seat. And I had a window seat. I'm fine with that, whatever. And there's a teenager in the middle seat, and then somebody who's a little bit too young to be his parent. I don't know sister. I don't know the relationship. I just know that she's not old enough to be his mom. Biological mom, anyway. And so we're sitting there. By all accounts, he's got his his phone out. He's watching a movie. Okay, great. They're not chatty. They're not talking. I put on a TV show. I end up falling asleep. And we kind of went down a little bit. Like when there's just that bit of turbulence where you kind of just go whoop. It's like a little bump, almost like you hit a pothole in your car. That little bit of a bump. It woke me up from my sleep. Again, I wasn't in a deep sleep, and my seat did recline that half an inch that it reclines on the plane. And all of a sudden, the kid throws up straight ahead, back of his seat, landing on the seat pocket, landing on his backpack on the floor, landing on him. And I didn't even really think that I saw what I saw, right? Because most people quickly reach for the bag that's right in front of you. It's like a foot away from your head. People reach for that. I don't know if it's his first time flying. I don't know what the deal is. Bottom line, there was just this spray. And I'm like, right, none's on me. Good, good, good. He still doesn't think to reach for the bag. His next blast ends up going and then lands on my left leg. I'm wearing shorts because I'm coming from Florida. Shorts down onto my tennis shoes. And I'm like, all right, I'll just take off my shoe. Not a big deal. I'm okay. I'm not going to make a scene. You know, if this kid is sick, that's more important than me being inconvenienced, was my thought. I didn't want to look like a dick. Was I pissed off? Absolutely, I was pissed off. I got thrown up on by a stranger. If it's your spouse or something, it's passable. This is some random kid. One thing if it's a baby, right? Kind of cute if a baby does it to you. Okay, fine, right? This is a snotty teenager. And then, so I take off my shoe. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want this creeping into... I wasn't wearing socks, so I'm like, oh, it's going to be on my foot. Take off my shoes. I'm not one of those travelers who has my bare feet up in the wind, right? I'm not one of those. But when you puke on me, I'm going to do it. Sorry. So then this third one comes, and now, so it's in my shoe, on my shoe, running down my leg. At this point now, we've played it out at least a minute or two. Seems like an eternity. You know, the flight attendants come. They're really not doing anything now that I think about it. They're kind of just rallying around. Is he okay? Is he okay? Anything? In my head, I'm sitting, get him to the fucking bathroom. Get him out. Get him away from us. Why is he still here? Now, I understand if it's a safety thing and it's turbulence and we're rocking and we're bouncing and we're everywhere, sure, stay in your seat. It was not like that at all. We had that one bump and that was it. It was safe enough for 3 flight attendants and, you know, all these people to come running over. And again, I'm looking up going, is somebody going to notice me? Is somebody going to say something to me? Yes, I realize he's the priority. Sure. And now I'm sitting there. And now I'm sitting there. And now I'm sitting there. And the kid is even looking at me. And the kid even says to the female that he's traveling with, oh, I got it on him. Got it on his shoe. That should be a cue then. Hey, somebody notice me. Somebody pay attention. The kid is saying I've just vomited on the guy beside me. No. So even when they get him... we're going on probably about 10 minutes now. He's still in the seat. Get him to a bathroom. Get him to the front of the plane. Get him somewhere else. And they don't. So then finally, they get the kid up, and the flight attendant taps me from the row behind, and hands me some wet naps, or towelettes, whatever you call those things. I'm not going to do a brand name, but towelette. And I was like, need a little bit more than that, okay? So then they're like, oh, well, let's get him up. So I had to sit there. Again, I'm sitting here for about 15 minutes with somebody's vomit dripping down my leg, in my shoe, on the floor. And so I expect that maybe I will get escorted to the back and somebody will assist me. Instead, I'm told, oh, you can go into the bathroom and clean up. Okay, great. Now, again, I realize that you're not the one who puked, so I'm not going to make the... But, like, offer to help me, offer to do something. So what was the next bit of assistance? Hand me a surgical mask, like I've got the coronavirus, and tell me to go into the bathroom and give me some more alcohol wipes to rub off the pattern of my shoes. That was the assistance I got. So I did some selfies in the bathroom, and I wrote about this at speakfreewithjb.com. It's a little bit more in-depth. We don't have the time right now on the show to get into it, but speakfreewithjb.com. Type in swoop goop or something like that, and you'll find the commentary. Because there's a selfie of me holding up my shoe, which got my vomit-covered shoe, and wearing a surgical mask, and that was really what they did for me. So I went and fought the airline. I wanted a comment from media relations because I felt that my property has been damaged, or my belongings have been damaged on your property. No different than if I'm in a store and I roll my ankle or whatever, you're liable for it to a certain extent, right? I'm not saying be shady and have false legal claims. So I went to the airline. I said, well, are you going to reimburse? Like, what are you going to do for this? It's maybe $100 for a new pair of, like, tennis shoes, whatever. It's not. But the bottom line is that it was damaged on your property. And I went back and forth with the airline, basically insisting on somebody commenting. And now I do have to do this because they're flashing on my screen legal message. WestJet, the parent company, refused to comment for the story. And Swoop, Media Relations, said in a statement to Speak Free Media, Swoop sincerely apologizes for the uncomfortable situation you encountered on your flight. It was truly an unfortunate event, and our flight attendants worked as quickly as they could, following procedures to contain the biohazard. We appreciate you bringing this to our attention. We consider all feedback as we continually make improvements to our procedures, end quote. That's the statement from Swoop. Now, when we were posting this article, we did a sweep of social media, and it didn't take long to do a sweep of Swoop on Twitter. We did a hashtag Swoop or even just their handle, and to see how many people were tearing the airline to shreds because of bad customer service, being left in the dark, getting screwed over. So we can tell you this story, and I can editorialize, and I can be fair and balanced because we've extended the invitation to the airlines to comment further. We actually sent them a copy of the commentary before we got their statement. They had every opportunity to dispute the claim. They could dispute any part of the story they'd like. They could comment on anything. That was the statement that we got from them. So they have not denied any of the claims. They didn't deny that it happened, but apparently that's following procedures, making you sit in somebody's puke. What do you think of that? I want to hear from you. If you have flown Swoop, or if you've encountered some really, really bad procedures on an airline that you think that's not quite right, and what sort of compensation, if any, would you expect from an airline? Again, I'm not saying that I wanted $10,000 for, stress and whatever, and damages, whatever, but I basically ruined a new pair of shoes scrubbing them with alcohol wipes because that was the best that you guys could do, and the minor inconvenience of, being thrown up on. And that's kind of it, really. So anyway, tell me your thoughts. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. I'm going to finish my Swoop story. They were yelling at me to wrap it up like it's the frickin' Academy Awards. And worst of all, by the way, on this whole goopy, swoopy flight was that it was late. It was a Monday night we were coming back, or Monday afternoon. We should have been in at about 4:30, 5 o'clock, which is enough time for me to live tweet The Bachelor, which it's a painful season of The Bachelor. I don't care for the show. I've mentioned it on this podcast a few times. I'm paid to tweet it and mock the hell out of these people, so I do it, well, willingly with the assistance of alcohol. But what was the piss-off was that I ended up getting into the city. It starts at 7 o'clock Winnipeg Central Time, and I land on at the airport, and we have to still go through customs, right? My colleague Suzanne, because we couldn't sit together, we didn't pick our seats. She's at the back of the plane, where probably the seats don't recline as much as they didn't where I was. And she was like, okay, well, are we going to say goodbye like at the airport? Her husband was picking her up. I was going my own way. And I said, well, yeah, no, of course I'll see you in the airport. Well, I'm motored because I'm sitting here watching the clock. How many people would sit there and get pissed off because I'm going to miss the first 10 minutes of The Bachelor? In reality, probably nobody. Maybe the diehard fans who don't have a life and go sit in the studio audience because they don't have jobs. But nobody's going to freak out. I'm sitting here going, it's my job. And if I were to be panicked, could you imagine what I would have said at customs? Sorry, you know what? Let's hurry this up. I have to get home and tweet The Bachelor. They've detained my ass for sure. They wouldn't let me back into the country. So that was actually the piss off. And so I go through, the little winding line up, the queue, I guess they'll call it. And I didn't get asked a bunch of questions like, just, why are you there? I said, work. I'm a travel broadcaster. Good to go through. And thankfully my ride was actually there. And I just said, like, I've got less than 30 minutes to get to the TV. And we actually had 5 minutes to spare. I came running in, fixed a drink, and I had time. But so just when you think your travel is over, right? Your adventure, the journey is done. Crap, I've got 2 hours of The Bachelor to tweet. It's the story of my life. What a broadcaster problems, we call it. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Any of the airline stories, feel free to give me a shout. Tell me your experiences live at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. I will talk to you next time right here on The Scribble. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat